Most traders don't talk about how they actually started. They talk about their wins. They don't talk about their losses. They talk about the big trades, the perfect entries, the screenshots they share online, but they don't talk about the beginning. Because the beginning is embarrassing. You didn't walk into trading with discipline and a plan. You stumbled in. Maybe through a viral video of someone making thousands in 10 minutes. Maybe through a friend who wouldn't shut up about crypto. Maybe through desperation to escape a job you hated. Maybe through boredom. Maybe through the fantasy that you could outsmart a system billions of people participate in daily. However you arrived, you brought the same ingredients: hope, urgency, and a dangerous belief that you could learn this fast. That's the trap. Because trading does offer freedom, but only to the people who survive the part that kills 95%. And if you're listening to this, you've probably already paid the initiation fee. You've blown an account, maybe several, maybe more than you'll admit. That's normal, that's expected. But here's what nobody tells you. Blowing accounts isn't the transformation. The real turning point comes later, and it's far more brutal than losing money. Every trader goes through a phase where they're not actually trading. They're guessing, reacting, hoping, pressing buttons and calling it progress. After your first few losses, you tell yourself a story. I just need a better strategy. I just need more knowledge. I just need cleaner entries. So you start learning, and learning quickly becomes obsession. You start simple. RSI, moving averages, support, and resistance. Then the rabbit hole pulls you deeper. Smart money concepts, order blocks, Elliott waves, ICT, Wyckoff, Fibonacci extensions, volume profile, algorithmic footprints. You convince yourself you're improving because you understand more. You can explain complex setups. You can teach others what a liquidity grab looks like. But your behavior hasn't changed at all. You still move your stop when price gets close. You still revenge trade after a loss. You still enter early because you don't want to miss it. You still exit early because you're terrified of giving profit back. You develop technical intelligence but remain emotionally illiterate, and this mismatch destroys you. Because deep down, you know better. But you still don't do better. That contradiction eats you alive. At the beginning, of course, you didn't know. You thought learning the right strategy would be enough. You were unaware of the dark side of this work, the mental challenges. Now you've seen that it's not as easy as it looks, and you've seen the price of doing this at the level you've always desired. You're no longer a beginner. You're no longer clueless. You've studied hundreds of hours. You've watched price move for thousands of minutes. But you're still not consistent. You're not blowing up anymore. But you're not making money either. You're stuck. Not a losing trader, but not a winning trader. Trapped between two identities. And this is the most psychologically torturous place in trading. It's purgatory. It's where most people quit. Getting out of here is really not easy. Most people go through this phase, not because they're stupid, not because the market is rigged, but because the solution isn't obvious anymore. If the problem was knowledge, more knowledge would fix it. But you already tried that. And it didn't work. Now you feel lost, confused, exhausted. And worst of all, you start questioning yourself. Am I just not smart enough? Do other people have something I don't? Is this even possible for me? And that question, quiet and poisonous, starts to hollow you out from the inside. Here's the truth you need to hear. You're not failing because you're incapable. You're failing because you're trying to use strategies to fix a psychological problem. And strategies can't fix your mind. You can't indicator your way out of fear. You can't backtest your way out of greed. You can't YouTube your way out of impatience. The market isn't your problem. You are. And until you're willing to face that, nothing changes. You must take full responsibility for your failures. That's the only way a solution is possible. Otherwise, the end is dark. Despite everything, despite all the psychological difficulties, the high stress, and all the effort you put in, even if you lost money, you didn't give up and kept going, and the road led you to an unexpected place. Eventually, you hit the breaking point, and it doesn't announce itself, it sneaks up on you. At first, losing money is just frustrating, annoying, something you believe you can fix with one more video, one more strategy tweak. But after enough time, the losses start to feel different. They stop hitting your account and start hitting something deeper, your confidence, your identity, your sense of worth. A losing trade stops being just a trade. It becomes a statement. Maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe I don't have what it takes. This is the moment the market stops being a game and becomes a mirror, a brutally honest one, and it reflects back everything you've been ignoring: your impatience, your lack of discipline, your need for certainty in a world that offers none, your craving to win fast instead of win right. And the worst part, you can't hide anymore. You're forced to face yourself. And this is very uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable that instead of facing it and moving to the next level, we think about quitting trading here. Because constantly facing some things this intensely is not something that's easy to bear. But if you can manage to keep going despite this, something very interesting happens. It usually happens after a sequence you know too well. You follow your plan for a while. You feel like you're finally getting it. Then one losing streak hits. Not a small one that feels personal, targeted. Like the market is specifically watching you. It feels like it's all a conspiracy designed to defeat you. Like the market knows you very well and is moving specifically against you. And unfortunately, you tilt. You take one more trade to recover. Then another. Then another. Somewhere in that spiral, you stop following your rules. You stop thinking. Rationality ends, and we start making more decisions with our primitive urges. You're no longer trading your system. You're trading your panic. Your emotion is running you. And when you finally close the laptop, you stare at the screen and whisper, not with anger, but with something worse: disappointment. Because you knew better. And you did it anyway. And to be honest, who knows how many times you're doing this, and every time you say, next time will be different. But it's not. You might be sick of this situation by now. This is where the real pain starts. You stop questioning your strategy. You start questioning yourself. Why do I do the opposite of what I know is right? Why can I explain discipline to others but not live it myself? You begin to feel like two people, the one who knows what to do and the one who refuses to do it. And the war between them isn't quiet. It's constant, exhausting. A war fought in silence, a war no one sees, a war where the enemy and the victim are the same person. This is a war that feels very hard to get out of and mentally very draining. To win, we need to beat ourselves, not the markets. And the war one has with oneself is the hardest. But a turning point can happen. For some traders, the breaking point is a blown account. For others, it's losing money they couldn't afford to lose: rent money, savings, borrowed funds. For some, it's not even the money, it's being depleted. Emotional depletion. The cycle of hope, effort, collapse, shame. It's terribly dark. And at some point, every trader reaches the same question. Is this worth it? Really, is it worth feeling all of this? Is it worth doing this torture to myself? We ask ourselves honestly. We face a darkness we couldn't have anticipated when we started this. Most, in that exact moment, walk away. Not because trading is too hard, not because they're not smart enough, but because they never learned to face themselves. Because confronting your flaws is harder than losing your money. Because the emotional cost felt heavier than any potential reward. Yes, it really isn't easy. If anyone says trading is easy, know that they're lying. Trading is one of the hardest jobs you can do, with the heaviest mental burden in this world. But you can't explain this to others. You have to deal with all of this alone. But here's the paradox. If you're hearing this right now, if you've been broken, humiliated, and brought to your knees by this game, you're closer to success than you think. Why? Because the breaking point is where illusions die. The illusion that you can control outcomes. You're actually at the most receptive point for change. The illusion that one perfect strategy will save you. The illusion that you can skip the internal work. This is the moment your ego cracks. And in that crack, space opens for something real. Discipline, humility, patience, structure. You cannot become consistent without this collapse. You can't skip it. You can't outsource it. You can't avoid the confrontation with yourself. The breaking point isn't the end. It's the beginning. You can't get here by paying money. You can't get here quickly. You can only get here by living through all of this. And if you've managed to get here, congratulations. This is the invisible threshold every profitable trader crosses. And once you cross it, you never trade the same way again. Because now you finally understand. Success doesn't belong to the smartest or the fastest or the most confident. It belongs to the ones who survive themselves. To those who don't fall into the traps they set for themselves. To those who can command themselves and are not slaves to their emotions. And then, if you're one of the few who doesn't quit, something shifts. The noise stops. Not because the market gets easier, not because losses disappear, but because something inside you changes. You stop chasing. You stop asking, how do I win more? And you start asking a different question. Why do I keep sabotaging myself? That's the real turning point. Because for the first time, your attention moves away from indicators and patterns and strategies, and it turns inward. You start seeing what was invisible before. You didn't blow accounts because your strategy was bad. You blew them because you couldn't stop trading when you should have. You didn't fail because you lacked knowledge. You failed because you didn't give your edge time to work. You didn't lose because the market was unfair. You lost because you were emotional, not mechanical. And slowly, painfully, the truth reveals itself. Trading isn't a test of intelligence. It's a test of self-control. And whoever fails this test will lose money. The world's best strategy is nothing in the hands of someone with weak self-control. They will inevitably lose money with it. They will surely blow their accounts. That's why you realize strategies aren't actually the most important thing. Your perspective on trading changes. You realize you need to look more in the mirror, not at charts. And this is a very valuable insight. You start noticing patterns, not in price, in yourself. You trade bigger after wins. You hesitate after losses. You close winners early out of fear. You hold losers out of ego. You trade when you're bored, not when setups appear. You react to price instead of waiting for your system. And you realize something that changes everything. The market never caused the chaos. Your reactions did. When this becomes clear, the shift begins. You stop taking losses personally. You stop needing every trade to win. You stop trying to predict what comes next. You stop chasing because it feels right. And instead, you start seeing trading for what it actually is, a process. You create steps and rules to manage this process properly, not to make profit. But that's the paradox. If you focus on commanding yourself instead of profit, making more profit becomes inevitable. You stop saying, I hope this works, and you start saying, if it matches my rules, I take it. If it doesn't, I don't. You stop asking, how do I avoid losing? You ask, how do I execute consistently? The emotional highs and lows flatten. Winning stops feeling euphoric. Losing stops feeling devastating. You start trusting probability over emotion, process over instinct. And for the first time in your entire journey, you feel something traders almost never feel early on. Control, not over the market, over yourself. And this is the most valuable thing. The one who controls himself actually controls everything. We can't control the markets. That's impossible. But if we can control ourselves, this is enough for us to change everything. This is the aha moment. Not a strategy revelation, not a secret indicator, not a hidden pattern the pros don't want you to know. The aha moment is this. Consistency isn't about perfection, it's about repetition, predictability, neutrality, patience. It's the quiet realization that you've been fighting the wrong battle. You weren't supposed to beat the market. You were supposed to master yourself. And when that clicks, everything changes. You stop looking for a magic wand. You see the pointlessness of jumping from strategy to strategy. Now you're aware of the real problem, and acting according to this becomes possible. You stop trying to become a different trader every week. You become a better version of the same trader every day. You strip away everything that isn't necessary. You simplify. All the indicators you don't actually use, all the strategies you keep switching between, all the noise. You choose one approach, one set of rules. And for the first time, you're committed to mastering it instead of replacing it. You build structure, a pre-trade routine, clear entry and exit rules, defined risk per trade, maximum number of trades per day, weekly review process. Not because someone told you to, but because you finally understand that without structure, discipline is impossible. You also understand now that the time you spend staring at charts is not productive. You look at trading differently. Every day you can control yourself is a productive enough day, whether you lose or make profit. You stop trading when you're emotional. You stop increasing size after a win. You stop trying to recover losses with aggression. You stop believing the next trade can fix the past. Every decision starts carrying intention instead of reaction. You start journaling, not to track trades, to track yourself. What triggered the entry? How you felt before clicking? Whether you followed the rules or broke them? how you reacted as price moved, why you exited when you did, what emotion was driving you: fear, greed, impatience, hesitation. Slowly, your journal stops being a record of trades and becomes a record of transformation. Patterns emerge, not in charts, in behavior. You start recognizing the exact moment impulse tries to hijack your mind, and when it happens, you do something you've never done before. You pause, you breathe, you wait. Not for the market, for your discipline to catch up. You notice those moments when you're always prone to making mistakes, and you learn to stop before those moments. Now you know that the market doesn't run away, that commanding yourself is the most important thing you can do as a trader. And it comes even before charts. So you make fewer mistakes as days go by. And right decisions breed. Right decisions. Momentum starts working in your favor. You're no longer hasty but patient. Your life is less stressful. On one hand, you feel like you're working and struggling less, but you're making more money. Over time, everything becomes normalized and ordinary. And being a consistent trader is now your natural state. Let's return to the process. You redefine progress. Winning doesn't excite you. Losing doesn't destroy you. The only question that matters becomes, did I follow my process? Because now you understand something most traders never learn. A winning trade executed poorly is a loss. A losing trade executed perfectly is a win. Your identity shifts. Success is no longer tied to outcomes. It's tied to behavior. You become the trader who measures consistency by execution, not emotion. And then, quietly but undeniably, things start to change. Your losses get smaller. Your winners get cleaner. Your equity curve stabilizes. Your confidence becomes quieter but stronger. Trading stops feeling like gambling. It starts feeling like work. Predictable, structured, repeatable work. And the more you can command yourself, the more things progress the way you want. What once felt chaotic now feels calm. What once felt personal now feels neutral. What once felt impossible now feels manageable. You stop chasing trades because you trust they'll come back. You stop fearing losses because risk is pre-accepted. You stop rushing because you finally understand that mastery takes time. And that's when the real shift happens. You stop trying to become profitable. You start becoming consistent. Because profitability isn't a goal. It's a side effect. A natural consequence of discipline, process, emotional control, and time. This is the stage most traders never reach. Not because it's complex, but because getting here requires something most people refuse to do. Face themselves. Sit with their flaws. Rebuild from nothing. And this really isn't an easy thing. If you've been able to come this far, you can really do this. It's not easy, we all know that very well. It's not what it looks like from the outside. But you're not alone. You're not just becoming a profitable trader. Be assured you're also maturing and growing as a person. Because trading develops you mentally as well. It adds more to you than you anticipated, but all of this doesn't happen easily. But you kept going despite everything. Congratulate yourself, you've earned this. You chose to do a very difficult job that you thought was easy. And you came this far instead of giving up. You went through darkness that most people couldn't endure. Your stress levels increased much more compared to your old life. You sacrificed your money, your health, your psychology. But now you're someone else, and you're aware of what you need and what you don't need. Despite everything, you did it. You broke. You learned. You rebuilt. Not your strategy, your mind. And now, slowly but certainly, you're becoming the trader you once thought was impossible. The trader who doesn't need to hope. The trader who doesn't need to guess. The trader who executes, trusts, and lets the process do what it was always designed to do. You're not chasing anymore. You're not desperate anymore. You're not two people at war anymore. You're whole. You're consistent. And for the first time, you're free. Not because you mastered the market, but because you finally mastered yourself. And this changes everything.